Shalom. Call halal Yahweh Bashem Awashai Bahashem Rakar Kudash. Double honors unto the apostles, double honors unto the elder bishops. Salutations to all my fellow laborers doing this work in truth and sincerity, risking their lives and their freedom to do so now more so than ever. To the scattered elect that are scattered around the four corners of the earth among the heathen that look like the heathen. And to the Akwaf that are listening and learning to you, I say Shalom. This is your brother Malcolm from the branch of the Great Millstone here in Chicago, coming at you another lesson in truth. And this is a video by, this is John Williams, a guy that, who brings out pretty good content. Elder Apostle Tahar spotlighted him. And, I've been watching him ever since. Actually, and truthfully, I had already watched a couple of his videos, but, I didn't really start using this material until the Apostle, then when the Apostle put him on, I was like, oh yeah, this guy. And then I started really watching him, and this guy's on point with a lot of things. But he's going to, matter of fact, let me grab a scripture. Let me start this off properly. All right, because I'm going to profile two videos, one from John Williams and one from Democracy Now! With Andrew Bacevich, who's a former Vietnam veteran and professor of, I think, history and politics. But let's grab Habakkuk real quick. Book of Habakkuk. There we go. And 2, Habakkuk 2, and it reads, this is Habakkuk 2:1. It says, I will stand upon my watch and set upon the tower, and will watch to see what he will say unto me, and what shall I answer when I am reproved. And Yahweh answered me and said, write the vision and make it plain upon tables, that he may run that readeth it. For the vision is set for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come. It will not tarry. And see, so the men of the Lord saw this, 10 plus years ago. The apostles and elders saw it way before that. But everything that the world is acknowledging now, if you go back and watch our videos from, from the time the apostles and elders went on the YouTube in 2007 to where we all joined them, 2008, 2009, we've been speaking about these things. The things that are happening right now, we were speaking about them and calling them years before any of these talking heads were on the YouTube and on the, on the Facebook and the Rumble and whatever other platforms they're on. We were speaking about these things. Why? Because we were living in the spirit. So without any further ado, I'm going to play a few minutes of this video. Literally, maybe about 3 minutes of it. Until he gets to a point, and I'm going to come with a couple scriptures and jump to the next video. Because truthfully, the decline of America started as soon as they fired them rockets and went up into the atmosphere. All right, they never went to the moon. They can't go past the Van Allen belt. Their own research, their own scientists tell you that. But yet they still push the lie, the false narrative that they did. Then eventually that truth is going to be faced too, along with a lot of their other lies that they've put into their history books.
Another train derailment. This one is in North Dakota. And when we start to look at what's going on here, it kind of reminds me of that movie Casino with Robert De Niro. It was like in the 80s when that movie came out. Great movie. But he hired someone to work the floor and basically watch all the slot machines.
No, I think it was the 90s, not the 80s.
One person hit the slot time after time after time. And De Niro came up to the guy and said, the odds of hitting this machine once are 1,000,000 to 1. Hitting it 3 or 4 times, it's 1,000,000,000 to 1. It's either you were in on it or you were too stupid to catch it. But either way, you're out. And he kicked the guy out and fired the guy. And this, to me, kind of looks like a similar situation. There's a big group of people that want to say that, it's a fluke, it's just one little situation. And there's a bunch of other people that are like a Robert De Niro that are looking at this saying, you know what, if you can't connect the dots, then, there's no hope for you. When we start to look at this, this is absolutely crazy. And this is nuts. Before I dive into this, today's video is sponsored by my company, GreatCreditFast.com. Great.
That was very creative and wise because he said it without saying it. And if you missed it and don't get what I'm talking about, then you need to go back and rewatch the first couple minutes of this video and listen closely to what he just said.
GreatCreditFast.com. Give us a call at 561-430-5100. You can help fixing your credit. You're going to want to have excellent credit, especially when things get a little bit...
I disagree with this right here. No amount of credit is going to matter when the system changes. Having good credit when the system falls is not going to matter. It's not going to make you escape the chaos. But let them continue.
Easier, and I think we're stepping into some really insane times. 2023, I think, is going to be... It's going to be way worse than any year that we've seen, in the last few decades, to put it lightly. So a 70-car train carrying hazardous materials derailed in North Dakota. This is at 1 a.m. last night. 70-car train derailment, right? We start to look at what's happened. Let's just call it 8 weeks. So we had this North Dakota, right? This is, by the way, in the green is the most fertile cropland in America.
You hear that?
North Dakota, and you have Ohio and Michigan, right? You have South Carolina, you have Texas. You have all these areas. And what do they all have in common? They all had train derailments the last 8 weeks. Now, am I saying they're connected? No, I'm not. But I'm simply saying, what are the odds, right? At the end of the day, what are the odds? Then this situation here is unfolding in California. California crops lost after floods. How much of the U.S. will feel this shortage? I didn't know this until recently. I had a conversation with my friend about it. He was telling me. I didn't realize California produced this much, but they do. California accounts for 46% of the U.S. fruit and nut production and 62% of the national value of fruit and nut crops. California leads in fresh market vegetable production, accounting for 44% of the U.S. harvested area and 49% of the national production.
So we can stop right there. So half of the fruits and nuts, which is a big part of a healthy diet, all right, comes out of California. And they're responsible for literally half of the production of that food for America. What do you think that's going to do to prices of nut? Because I've noticed, junk is cheap as compared to actually trying to eat healthy. It was a time when, I saw a movie. I think it was a movie with Mark Wahlberg and The Rock and Anthony Mackie, when the Jewish guy said, salads were created for broke guys. And the salad is actually one of the healthiest things you could actually eat. A salad with some fruit in it, with a proper piece of meat, not a abomination. All right, you can put a small piece of meat, some steak or some chicken or some righteous fish with some fruits, vegetables, and nuts, and that will actually nurse you back to health, help you lose weight, get your vitality and your strength back if you ate like that on a regular basis. All right, if you added a salad or two to your daily, it would actually fix a lot of issues that you have. And that was a cheap way to go in years past, in decades past. Now it's almost more expensive to try and buy some fruit and vegetables than it is to buy, a burger and fries. So it's going to be really bad. So this is 2 Ezra 6 and 24. Actually, I'm going to start at 23. No, 22. And suddenly shall the sown places appear unsown, and full storehouses shall suddenly be found empty. And if I let the video play up a little bit further, he shows you the people in Philly, ransacking the stores for water because, they had chemical spills from train derailments and ruined their water supply. So you got water and food and land where food needs to be grown being annihilated. All right. And that's going to cause some serious issues. But it says, and suddenly shall the sown places appear unsown, and the full storehouses shall suddenly be found empty. And the trumpet shall give sound, which when every man hear, they shall suddenly be afraid. It's when those sirens go off, like it showed you in the movie The Purge. And it says, And at the same time, his friends shall fight one against another like enemies. And the earth shall stand in fear with those that dwell therein. And the springs of the fountains shall stand still, and in 3 hours they shall not run. It's going to be no food, no water, and people are going to begin to attack and prey on each other. All right? Like it says, agricultural flax, plant sciences, Cali, San Luis Obispo. That whole area, San Luis Obispo is like, it's a coastal town, but it's still like in the middle, in the valley where all the stuff is grown, and there's ports there. So I'm sure through those you got the naval ports and the civilian ports. So I can only imagine how much commerce and food came through those ports and from that area coming out of the valley to get shipped around. How I can imagine how empty those ports are these days. But it's gonna get pretty bad. All right, so let's click to the next video. This is Democracy Now! With Amy. I think her name is Amy. I forget. Well, but this Andrew Bacevich is a historian, co-founder of the Quincy Institute. All right, and he's a retired Army colonel, Vietnam veteran, so he knows a little something about something. All right, and I'm sure being a retired Army colonel, he still got connects and people inside. You don't get that high up in the ranks and still not be plugged in. You're not completely in the dark when you're a guy like him. So without any further ado, Colonel Bacevich.
That Putin's war efforts will consist entirely of conventional weapons, despite the fact, of course, that Russia possesses a massive nuclear arsenal. So we make these convenient assumptions about the way a war is going to go, and then, of course, we're utterly surprised when the war doesn't follow the required script.
Professor Bacevich, you recently wrote a piece for the American Conservative headlined, "And the winner is 20 years after the Iraq invasion, America's humiliation was China's gain." Talk more about this.
Well, I think there's no question about it that over the past 20 years, if it was a matter of stock prices, China's stock prices have gone up, has flourished. Our stock price has plummeted. We have frittered away power. We have frittered away influence. And I wouldn't say that the Iraq War is the one and only explanation for relative American decline, but it has been a very...
Well, the Iraq War, 9/11 were all travesties that can be contested, and just like the H thing, we won't mention it, but the big event that started with the H that happened around, in the Second World War, the facts surrounding these things are very questionable, and instead of examining those facts and those questions, you just get labeled as hate speech and all manner of other things instead of actually examining the arguments. Instead of looking, it's like ignoring evidence of a murder when you have film and fingerprints and blood and DNA, but the narrative have already been established, and the bringing in of that evidence with shame and embarrassing. So they just they Julian Assange you or Edward Snowden you. Forget the evidence. You're a traitor. Instead of bringing to justice all these criminals and people who really commit crimes, they basically kill the messenger, and that's what we're looking at here. But this is Habakkuk 2:16, and it reads, "Thou art filled with shame for glory. Drink thou also, and let thy foreskin be uncovered. The cup of Yahweh's right hand shall be turned unto thee, and shameful spewing shall be upon thy glory." And that's what's going on with America. America's being shamed by its past, by its history. Not only its and not just its history from a long time ago, but its recent history. Because the difference is now that you have the internet, See, during the Vietnam era, during World War II, that's the issue that happened shortly after. Because he's going to talk about a book 20 years after, this failed invasion of Iraq, which had nothing to do with 9/11. The difference being that all the wars before that, you didn't have the internet. You didn't have it where people could share information and look up stories and information from the places where events took place. Look up footage from the places that took place, and then match that footage and that information up to what's being told, or the eyewitness accounts that are being blotted out, and then you able to see the truth. You didn't have that issue before.
Important contributing factor. And if the imperative of the moment would include putting a floor under that decline, then it seems to me the place to begin is with an honest recounting of the Iraq War, its origins, its conduct, its implications. But there's not a heck of a lot of evidence to suggest that honest recounting is going to happen.
And what do you think of the right in terms of questioning the Iraq War, leading many to believe, sort of sides are switching and shifting? There are those that are deeply questioning the Ukraine war in the peace movement, who are saying negotiation is the only solution here, fearing that this could...
Okay, so this whole Ukrainian thing, just like the Iraq thing, it's all about gain and control of resources and keeping resources that don't belong to you. All right, as simple as that. This is Second Esdras. Not Second Esdras, Salakia. Not Second Esdras. Ecclesiasticus. It simply was about this, the control of resources. All right? And it reads, because of unrighteous dealings, that was very unrighteous. Saddam Hussein, had nothing to do with 9/11 whatsoever. All right? Because they even talk about this, supposedly, Saudi nationals, but yet they attacked Iraq and not Saudi Arabia. So that just like other stories in America, that, the things don't add up. Hey, I just saw another shooting, and I'm like, this story just don't sound right. And then it was a female this time, and they actually gave up names of people who have died supposedly. We still haven't seen any bodies or footage. It could be some up by now. I don't know. But the thing that struck me is that they said that this person was a former student, a woman and a former student. But then they said when they went to her house, she had notes and maps. And I'm like, why would you need a map of a school that you went to? I haven't been in my school in well over 2 decades, but I still can remember everything about it. I can still see it in my head right now. Every room, every place, and my school was huge. I went to a very large school with a very large class. I think it was 700 something of us in my class. All right. I think only 6. We probably lost about 80 people along the way. 6 something ended up graduating. All right. But the point is, it was a large class, but I remember every door, every exit, everything. Why would she need a map of her own school? You see what I mean? Things just don't add up. But it says, Ecclesiastes 10:8, because of unrighteous dealings, injuries, and riches got by deceit, the kingdom is translated from one people to another. And that's what this was all about, transferring the wealth control of those lands so that they can get a foothold, so that they can commit, do whatever it was on their agenda. All right? Because just like Libya, just like with Gaddafi, Saddam Hussein and Gaddafi both died very shamefully and violently in the streets. And one thing that they have in common, what they were trying to unite African countries to get around the hegemony of the dollar. That's what that was all about. And those places are bombed out and depleted when they were clean and thriving. Matter of fact, I think it said Libya was one of the best places in the world to live prior to when America went in and killed Gaddafi. You had free medical, free college, you know, clean city, family oriented, and all that. And now it just looks like it's a movie set of a bad movie, glorifying America for saving the world when it's actually destroying it. Matter of fact, and that's why the nations are mad and separating from America now. That brought to mind Revelation 11:18. I read and close it. Because the Spirit jumped on me and stopped me. I was in the middle. I just finished cardio. I was about to go hit the weights. And, and I had to stop what I was doing to do this lesson after watching, because these were videos I was watching while I was doing cardio. But let's get that real quick. This is Revelation 11 and 18, and it reads, "And the nations were angry, and thy wrath is come, and the time of the dead, that they should be judged, and that thou shouldest give reward unto thy servants, the prophets and the saints, and them that fear thy name, small and great, and shouldest destroy them which destroyeth the earth." Call halal Yahweh by Shema Shai by Hashem Rakakwadash Wa Abba Kwam Yasharala Shalom.